This is Tyrese Halliburton, and you're listening to Setting the Pace.
And that is a statement win. The Indiana Pacers take down the Oklahoma City Thunder 121-111. Welcome back to your go-to Pacers podcast, Setting the Pace. I'm Alex Golden. Facci is back from vacation, ladies and gentlemen. Great time for Facci to come back and talk about a big win. Facci, how you doing?
Oh man, always kills me to be gone, but I knew, once that plane was touching down and we had that lead against the Thunder, I was just like, just hold it, because nothing better than a post-game pod on a big victory. And tonight, beating the Thunder in Oklahoma City, one of the biggest wins of the season, no doubt.
Definitely felt like this was a game the Pacers could lose just because of how well OKC has been playing, especially at home of late. But Indiana came in and really set the tone defensively, got out to an early start, 11-2 lead, forced OKC to call a timeout. And if you rewind just a game before that, Indiana got down 12-2 to Orlando, and it felt like slow starts are going to become a recurring thing. But this team came out laser focused defensively, really got the ball going, and I just felt like this was a signature win of the season for me because we've talked about, the win in Dallas was big, but I feel like this one was bigger because I think OKC is a much more balanced team in terms of how hard they are to beat and how they just are just so relentless at coming back. And we saw that this game. They came back over and over and over again, but Indiana was able to kind of absorb that punch and then punch back every single time, it felt like. So it was just a great win, but I think we really got to start things off defensively here, Facci, because I think that's where this game was won.
I absolutely think so. So if I told you that the Pacers only scored 22 points in the first quarter, you'd probably think, all right, how much are we down by? Well, Indiana only gave up 17 in the
Yeah.
first quarter. I felt like that really set the tone for this game to say, hey, you know what? The Pacers they would manage to be in control, but 17 points only given up to the Thunder in the first quarter. Awesome to see. I felt like a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that had been lighting the league on fire. Look, he still ends up with 30 in this game, but just 11 by halftime is an unbelievable job by the Pacers. I think it was a collective unit tonight, and you love to see that, holding a Thunder team to 111 points. This is a Thunder team that is, I believe, they're sixth in the league in scoring. I think they're just outside the top five, but they're a very well balanced team, like you said. And tonight, Indiana, they looked like the better team, and that says a lot.
Yeah, the last 10 games, OKC was third in offense and fourth in defense and third in net rating. So they were playing lights out. But you talk about that first quarter, 17 points. That is the fewest amount of points OKC has scored in the first quarter all season
Wow.
long. And it's only the third time they've been held to 17 points in a quarter. They've been held to 17 points in a quarter twice by the same team, the Minnesota Timberwolves. So
Well, the best defensive team in the NBA. So, I mean, how
yeah.
about that?
Our good friend Rooster, he tweeted it out. He said, I told everybody, just watch out for when this Pacers team starts playing defense. They're going to be hard to beat. You know what? It kind of showed you how good this team can be defensively when they're totally locked in. And I think we've kind of seen it now with Nimhard in that starting five. Like, they can be a better defensive unit. But we were talking before we started the recording of this podcast, how good Tyrese Halliburton was at moments in this game defensively. Yes. He had some nice block shots. One of the first possessions of the game was a block shot. He just continued to fight and recover and play good help side defense, had some nice steals. I thought that he really kind of stepped up. There was obviously some plays where he could have fought a little bit harder on the one-on-one defense, but his help side defense, his recovery defense, things like that, getting his hands up, blocking shots. I just felt like we saw maybe one of the best Tyrese Halliburton defensive games all season long tonight against OKC.
You can make a strong argument about that. Yeah, I mean, multiple blocks, but also it's just like it's a tough matchup. I mean, you got to give everything you can when you're going up against a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And just overall, I mean, OKC has a ton of different bodies that they could be throwing at you. So I felt that, yeah, the effort was definitely there from Halliburton, and overall from this team. 10 blocks tonight. I mean, that says a lot. And it's not like Turner had, 7 of them. I mean, Turner did he had 4 blocks, but I thought it was just a good collective effort by the Pacers. You can't just continue to hope to win these games, 135 to 130. You got to play some defense. Holding the Thunder to 111 tonight, I mean, that is as good as you could possibly ask. And like you talked about, there were moments where the Thunder, you expected they would roar back, and they did. That third quarter coming out of halftime, they really came out, lights out, and you knew Shai was going to get his, but Indiana managed to just kind of, weather the storm the whole time. This is a game that the Pacers only trailed by 1 point in this
Mm.
game, and I felt that said a lot. But I mean, there's many different areas that you can go, but just a couple different things that I want to point out is like the last 2 games in specific against Orlando and against the Thunder, the Pacers on the fast break have been electric. They've been dominant. I mean, against Orlando, just to put this in perspective, they outscored Orlando 27-0 on the fast break. Tonight, they outscored the Thunder. I got it pulled up right in front of me. Give me one quick second. They outscored them 23-3.
Yeah.
You're talking about outscoring a team. I mean, this is crazy what they're doing right now. That's Indiana basketball from when we see the Pacers playing at their best this year.
Well, you know what leads to fast break points? Good defense. And when you play good
Yes.
defense against your hands in passing lanes, you're good on the glass, you can get out and run a little bit quicker. So I think they had held OKC to no fast break points too by the half. It was like right when Daenerys said it, I think the pace had a turnover and Dort scored on the fast break. And I said, the announcer cursed, but it's okay because they were able to kind of bounce back from that. There's a lot of points we could look at here, but I think one thing we really need to look at is just the way that Rick Carlisle has kind of staggered his lineups a little bit rotation wise. I tweeted it out, Facci, because I thought it was a really great move that he did against Orlando, and then he followed it up again, and he did a little bit against Minnesota too with Mathurin out. You're gonna need more scoring on that second unit, and so what they've done a really good job of is bringing in Obi Toppin early for Pascal Siakam, and then bringing Siakam in kind of with that second unit once Tyrese heads to the bench, and we talked about it like when you have Siakam and Halliburton out there, you kind of want to have those minutes staggered a little bit, so at least one of them is always on the floor. And I think I talked about this when I did my solo pod, talking about Ben Mather and that the injury to him. I wanted to have kind of a reaction podcast to that just because I felt like it was necessary. But that was one thing I was thinking to myself, like we really have to. Rick has to do a better job of kind of balancing out that second unit scoring because you can't rely on TJ McConnell to do it all.
No.
But you saw tonight, like Siakam kind of let Turner and Halliburton kind of run the first unit with the starters, and then when he came back in, he kind of cooked and continued to do so throughout the game. So I really like the way they've done that, and I think it makes a lot of sense too because Obi has a really good chemistry with Tyrese, and he's already played with Miles for a majority of the season. He's pretty familiar with Jalen Smith now too because he's kind of played about half and half with starters and with the bench. So I just think it was a really smart move to let Obi kind of run with that first unit a little bit more and then bring Pascal in with the second unit. And then if you've noticed too, in the second half of games, the last couple of games, Jarris Walker has not gotten in with that rotation in the second half. Now he plays in the first half, but not the second. So that's kind of what I envision the 10th man being for this team, probably moving forward, not playing in close games in the second half. But I think the way Obi Toppin has played so far the last couple of games, he deserves those minutes over Jarris Walker.
No, he does, and I think that right now this is a good opportunity for Obi to kind of regain, some being more of an option in this lineup. And I think that against Orlando, who's fantastic, I think tonight you get a solid performance out of him, and I think that this is a big opportunity for Obi to finish out the rest of the year, especially when we don't know what his free agency situation may be. So it's good that he's got that opportunity right now. And I think that when you look at a bench unit that each night you're not 100% sure who's going to step up, you need Obi Toppin to step up. So I think that that's been great to see. But for Jarris, yeah, after he hit that three, I thought maybe there would be a little bit more of an opportunity. But at the same point, when the Pacers are winning games, hey, having some opportunity for Jarris is far better than no opportunity. And it does feel that there are some minutes that could be consistently coming his way, even if it's just a handful in, say, the second quarter and that's it. At least it's an opportunity.
Well, he only got 3 minutes against Orlando. He gets 7 minutes tonight against OKC. So that does seem like, okay, some progress, right? They're allowing him to kind of have a little bit of a longer leash. And when he was pretty good in this game, I didn't feel like he was out of place too much, was playing pretty solid defense. And he's got length. And I think that's one thing that Indiana can continue to use is just play bigger, play Siakam at the three, play Jarris at the three. It does give them a bit of a different look than what we saw 3 months ago with how this team was built and how they were playing. So that's a big thing there. But I think that we have to start off here in terms of individual players with Miles Turner because Miles Turner got the Pacers off to a hot start. And he had 9 points, I believe it was, in like the first 4 minutes of the game. He was just fantastic, hitting shots all over and really making OKC pay for blitzing on that pick and roll coverage
Definitely.
with Tyrese Halliburton. He was just getting open in all the pockets, and Tyrese was just finding him left and right. And it was just great basketball. And OKC, they did change it up a little bit in the second half, but that first half they didn't change it up enough, and Turner made them pay.
Yeah, first half, 15 points for Miles Turner. I felt like there's countless times that Turner has led the Pacers in scoring in the first half, and then maybe some other times kind of disappeared in the second half. That was not the case tonight. 24 points in this game. I mentioned the four blocks that he had. He even had 4 assists, and that was great to see. But 11 of 17 shooting, and 2 of 3 from 3. Just very efficient Miles Turner performance. Great to see. I felt like the rebounds was a little bit, scarce on the Turner side, but Siakam picked up for that. But offensively, Turner was the one that really had it going and was a big part of that reason of why the Pacers led by 12 in the first half. So, I thought that was a great performance, out of Turner tonight. And then, this is another one of those performances. 6 Pacers in double figures, nearly 7, McConnell at 9. But I think that, Siakam is someone that you already mentioned earlier, but 18 and 11
Yeah,
on 6 of
big
12
game.
shooting. Got to the line, 7 free throw attempts. You love to see that. When Siakam's rebounding, I've said it, this Pacers team is just a far better team when you're seeing Siakam put up double-digit rebounds. And I think that tonight, obviously, always a gifted passer, also 4 assists. I thought that was a big difference in the first half. Is I think the Pacers had like 20 assists to OKC's, like, I don't know, it might have been like 7 or 8. It really was not much. So great to see the ball movement in a game where they have 34 assists.
Well, one thing we know about OKC is they're not a very big team, so the Pacers kind of went a little bit bigger to counteract that a little bit. And one thing we saw was Pascal Siakam get matched up with smaller defenders, and he was begging for the ball in the
Made him pay.
post, and he was making them pay. He had a lot of nice moves in the post tonight, and I think that is somewhere where he can really take advantage of smaller defenders. And there was one where he actually called for the ball in the post, and there was a double team that was coming, and so he was waiting, and then Obi Toppin cut right across the middle. It drug Gordon Hayward just away enough so Siakam can get the one-on-one matchup without extra help, and he made the layup. And so I'm just watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, this is how good Pascal Siakam is. And I know Quinn Buckner kept saying it. He's just a scorer. He's just a professional scorer. He knows how to get the ball in the basket, and he does, because everybody can score in different ways. But I thought he was just fantastic. The Pacers just tweeted out that he had an electric double-double, and I feel like electric is a great way to put it, because he was really impactful in this game. And so, I wanted to go back to what you said about Turner, though. Those 4 blocks, Facci, 6 blocks away from tying Jermaine O'Neal's record for the franchise record for most blocks in Indiana Pacers history. And I know that's probably going to make you sad, because Turner's going to break that in the next couple of games.
Yes, he is.
It is Jermaine's record, but I think it's great to see a longtime Pacer, entering his 9th. He's in his 9th year. We'll be entering his 10th year next year. Like, that's really good to see, like, a guy that's that committed to this franchise being the one to break it. But already past Rick Smits, he's just clawing his way up there. He got Chet, I think, a few times tonight, and Chet had never been a part of the Miles High Club that our friend Derek Kramer does for iPacers blog. So awesome to see another player added to the list. But yeah, I just thought our front court really solid game.
Yeah, that Jermaine record, it's gonna go down. It's stood for a while now, and hey, if anyone's gonna break it, let it be Turner. So I think that's great to see. But yeah, good performance by Turner, good performance by Siakam. Tyrese Halliburton, 18 points, 12 assists. We talked about the blocks already, but Alex, big shots down the stretch. I mean, he had a real tough layup. He hit a big jumper towards the end. Each basket was essential to be able to distance the Pacers from whatever comeback OKC was always in the midst of. And I feel that that's the Tyrese Halliburton that we know. It doesn't have to be a game winner. It's just so many clutch shots down the stretch when you really need a basket to stop a run. And that is exactly what Halliburton delivered tonight.
Yeah, it was 112, 105, and Tyrese Halliburton. Gordon Hayward was, fighting through the screen, and Halliburton, when he saw Gordon Hayward turned his back, just pulled up for a 3 about 4 or 5 feet behind the 3-point line and swished it. And we have been waiting for Tyrese Halliburton to kind of hit one of those big clutch shots recently, because it feels like his 3-point shot has been down, and he was just 2 of 6 again tonight. So he's not shooting the ball particularly well from the outside, but that was a massive shot, like you said, and it really put the icing on the cake for this game. And I was getting texts saying, "Turn out the lights, the party's over." The
That's
classic
great.
Slick Leonard radio jingle that he used to sing at the end of games when it would be, when basically the game was iced and there was no way for the other team to come back. So with a 10-point lead, like Halliburton did, kind of seal the deal for the Pacers. But that layup was incredibly tough that he made. That
It
was so
was.
acrobatic. He had one earlier where Shea hit him in the face and they didn't get called for a
Mhm.
foul. So I just felt like Halliburton found different ways to kind of, make his impact on this game. It was good to see him back in double digits for the assist. And I think he only had 8 against Orlando, but he did
Yep.
have 7 rebounds in that game. And I knew that was something you would like to point out.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
made sure I
Love it.
pointed it out that he
Thank
was
you.
rebounding in that game, had 4 in this one tonight, 2 steals, 2 blocks. I felt like he was really good on all ends of the floor. So great to see Tyrese have a big game. And then, Aaron Nesmith, the 3-point shot, I was hoping it was coming back. It didn't look like it was coming back tonight if he was just 1 for 5, but he was still pretty good defensively, had some really nice plays. He got out in transition and scored some big buckets, but the biggest bucket of them all had to be the poster that he had on Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That was an insane dunk on him, and we've seen Nesmith not be afraid to attack people, and that's one thing I love about his game. He is fearless, and Shea was tired, man. The Pacers were wearing him out
Oh,
with the way
yeah.
they played defense on him, and so it was great to see them just continue to attack him on both sides of the basketball.
No, it really was, and I knew he would get to, like, his 30 eventually. Like I mentioned earlier, he had 11 at halftime and then, ends up pouring in, 19 in the second half. So, yeah, he got his, but he worked for everything that he had to. And this is someone that it's come easy to Shea on the year. He shot 12 of 27, so, closer to 40% in this game. But for Aaron Nesmith, you mentioned it, fearless. Also, this is a guy that led the Pacers in plus minus. He was plus 13, had just 2 points in the first half, 13 points in the second half. Great to see. Yeah, you mentioned the 3 ball. It's not what it once was when he was shooting near 50% on the year, but just a guy that is essential to what the Pacers need. Played 36 minutes tonight. They needed it. And
Mhm.
I felt that he delivered. So just man, I'm still just fired up about this win because this is the type of win that, as rough as it sounds, you look at the schedule and you said, okay, that's probably a loss. On the road, we talked about how hot OKC had been. Denary pointed out since Christmas, they were 13-1 at home. 13-1 at home, and the Pacers take them down by double digits. I mean, that says a lot. Now, this Pacers team right now, they've won 3 of 4, and it just feels that you would think without Mathurin, okay, you know what, things are going to get real rough. I had that moment, or when I got that Woj bomb, a couple days ago, I was like, oh man, just when we were finally looked like things were looking up. The Pacers they've locked in on defense the last couple games, and obviously they'll miss Mathurin at times, but defensively, at least for the last 2 games, I think we've seen a boost from this group. Maybe it'll help them come together a little bit. I don't know, maybe that's just a glass half full approach, but a win like this gives you a lot of confidence moving forward. And we've also talked about this. It's OKC. The Pacers got up for this one. Can they continue to get up for some of the lesser games on the schedule, like a Chicago? But we'll find out because the Pacers have been in that situation. We're coming off a big win. There's a letdown. I still want to, I'm still hopeful that that's not going to be the case, but I don't want this win to last too long. They got to be able to move on.
Yeah, I don't think that they can call, playing up against Chicago as a letdown because Chicago is 31 and 34 and they're creeping, trying to
Yeah.
get into the 8th spot, right? They're in the 9th spot right now, but they're coming off of a long road trip they played at Sacramento, at Utah, at Golden State, at the Clippers. They came home and got killed by Dallas by like 35 points. It was 127-92, and then that was Monday. So then they traveled here. I believe they're actually in Indianapolis already, waiting on the Pacers for this Wednesday night game. So it is a back-to-back for the Pacers, and they have been, terrible in those games. So
Yes, they have.
but it also feels like this team is a little bit more refocused, Facci, and I'm
Hope
not
so.
sure if that's going to carry over because, they can get up for the big games because, Orlando was a big game. They had to get up for that. OKC's a big game, but I think this Chicago game is a big game because they want to have that tiebreaker over them. And so they're going to have to really just, fight this one out. They didn't have that long of a road trip. It was just Orlando, OKC, quick road trip. It wasn't like you're on a 5 to 6 game road trip. And you know that this Chicago team, they're probably still a little bit tired after having a long road trip and then playing a tough team in Dallas coming back, because Dallas is one of those weird teams. They can beat anybody, but they can lose to anybody too. It's kind of
Yes.
reminiscent of the Pacers, but when you have Luca and Kyrie, it just feels a little bit more like, oh, we beat somebody. That was a really big win. But
Oh,
this
definitely.
is a great opportunity for Indiana because they've got 3 games at home before they go on a 5-game road trip, I believe it is. Maybe it's a 5-game road trip that they'll have after this 3-game homestand. So they really need to lock in here, take care of business at home, because after this game Wednesday, they'll have 2 days off before they play again Saturday. So hopefully they can maybe get some rest tonight and get a little uptick in minutes from everybody. But they're really going to need that home crowd to bring the energy and kind of be that 6-man for them.
Yeah, they really do, and I just feel like every time that you want to get down on this Pacers team, they find a way to claw back. And everything happens in about a week, because a week ago things looked rough for the Pacers. I mean, it's while we're recording this, it's March 12th, so roughly about a week ago, the Pacers were just coming off losing to San Antonio. They had just lost to New Orleans, just not good. And now all of a sudden, here we are again, Alex. I mean, Philly lost to the Knicks. The Pacers are crawling back. They're in the 6th spot. They're a half game behind Orlando for 5th. It's just like any time that the Pacers fall down to that 7-8, it's easy to be like, oh, this is just a play-in team, until one game could change a lot. And right now, the Pacers have that momentum, and it's fun to watch. It really is. A night like tonight just lets you just get fired up. No, this team's not completely there. They're not, but they're not giving up when things get rough. You talked about taking those punches. They had, they had a puncher's chin tonight. They just would not go down anytime OKC crawled back, and that's the Pacer basketball that we're looking to see.
Absolutely. And OKC's crowd was incredible tonight. I mean, they always do a great
Always are.
job with their fan base there. And so, I've heard people say, like, I wish I'd take OKC's, the Thunder back to Seattle. It's like, well, I mean, I don't want that. I just think
They've
they
been
should get
through
another
enough.
team in
Yeah.
Seattle, right? But
Mhm.
it's OKC, they're a small market team just like Indiana, and that's kind of what we were talking about on the podcast yesterday when I had Jacob Niffen on of the Uncontested Pod. We're like, you know what, we're a small market podcast duo here. We got to stay together, like
Definitely.
we're the enemy against each other during this game, but other than that, like we're rooting for OKC to do well. And it's been incredible to see how they built this thing. And so Indiana, obviously, like they've gone a different route because they went out and
Yes.
made a bigger trade for Pascal Siakam. But the Tyrese Halliburton trade was kind of similar to when they traded away Paul George for SGA and all those picks. So it's just you slowly build this thing up. They've only really had 2 of their own picks in the last 2 years, and that's Josh Giddey and Chet Holmgren, where the Pacers have been in the same boat, only having their really 2 first round picks, Jarris Walker and Ben Matherin. So obviously Chet and Giddey are starters for that team, where Jarris and Ben are coming off the bench and maybe not even in the rotation if everyone's healthy in Jarris's case. But I just think it's a slow build up, and this is an exciting time to be a Pacer fan, because if this team can continue to play like they're playing right now for the next couple of weeks, that could be a great, that could be a great way to set the tone going into the playoffs. If you've already been this locked in defensively early on, can you take it to another level now that you've gotten more comfortable with how you're playing this defensive style? Because, I was casually looking at Facebook tonight, and, I get tagged in all this stuff with that at everyone in these different groups that we're in.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes. And someone's talking about how crappy Nimhard is defensively, and he's like the worst starter to get extended minutes. And I'm thinking to myself, did you not watch how he guarded SGA all night? Like, it took him 27 shots to get 30 points. He was
That's awful
everywhere.
for his standard.
Yes, and in one of the last possessions of the game, that was really one that kind of sealed things. I think it was before Tyrese hit that 3. Tyrese got stuck on a switch. He made sure that he stayed on the double team so Tyrese wouldn't have to be on SGA Island. He ends up taking SGA when he drives to the basket. He passes it to Chet Holmgren. He goes over and helps double team Chet, then boxes out so the Pacers can get the rebound. Like, it's just little things that he does that don't show up on the box score. Not to mention the big 3 that he hit when Siakam threw him the ball up top of the key to give the Pacers a little bit more of a cushion.
That's
So
big.
no, not everybody's going to be Siakam or Halliburton, but everybody has a role and they play it to their best of their ability. And that's what Nimhard, Neesmith, those kind of guys do.
Exactly. It's just if people are waiting for Nemhard to drop like 20 to 25, like they're going to be let down. That's not his role on this team. If he does that, that's a major bonus, but don't expect it. For Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Shea has had everything almost like the game looks like it comes slow to him. On the season, not only is he averaging 31 points per game, he's doing it on about 55% from the field, which is unheard of to be averaging 31 points. So he shot 44% tonight. He was 1 of 7 from 3. He worked for everything. 4 turnovers. I mean, this was a great effort by the Pacers. And I think that Andrew Nembhard is everything the Pacers needed right now when they're trying to play better defense. I felt that he's just been kind of steady for the Pacers. And I think that that's everything that they need. And I think that he was +9 in this game. That's the second best behind just Aaron Nesmith, the Pacers' other really good defender. Like, it's like you need that. So I thought it was just, Nemhard's been awesome. It's so great to have him now be healthy for a stretch now.
Yes.
It seems that everything that he went through in the first 20 or so games of the season, 20 to 30 games, I would like to say, hey, that's behind him. And right now the Pacers have an opportunity to build on this. I feel that the bench did everything that they needed to do on a night like tonight. They didn't have to carry the Pacers, so I think that's great. But man, this is just one of those quality wins that lets you remember that on any given night, the Pacers cannot just hang with anybody; they can truly beat anybody. And I know that they just lost to Minnesota by 2, and how that went down with Nesmith getting blocked in the end. If they had beaten Minnesota and OKC within about a week, the top 2 teams in the West, it's just like, what more do you want from this Pacers team? I feel like they're giving you everything you could ask for in what's supposed to be taking a step forward. Right now, they just hit 37 wins. I believe Vegas had them slated at 37.5 wins on the season. So they are going to shatter their expectations for the rest of the year. And I love to see it because right now it just gives you that feeling that it's just like, wow, I can't wait for what's ahead. And when you talk about how OKC is doing this, OKC is like the blueprint for what the Pacers could develop. They're further along in their process, it feels like, than the Pacers are just because they got their superstar and they got a couple other guys. But like, it shows that you can build through the draft. And every now and then you're gonna have to make that big trade. OKC has yet to make their big trade, outside of the Shea deal because they have all those picks. But once they do, they'll be a scary team to deal with. And I think the Pacers, they're maybe a step or two behind, but tonight they got the job done.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth noting too, because I feel like there's been too many times where we've relied on TJ McConnell to kind of get this
Way
thing
too many.
going. And it was really led tonight by the three, the Pacers' big three: Halliburton, Turner, and Siakam. And that's what you need in a game like this on the road with a tough environment, because you mentioned it, OKC, their record at home is just absolutely insane. They're one of the best, if not the best team at home and playing against opponents. And so to me, it's like you have to have a signature win. And like, I would take this OKC win. If it meant that we have this win versus maybe that loss in Charlotte, I would rather have the loss in Charlotte and this win than vice versa, because it feels bigger and maybe it can be more of a momentum swing moving forward. Obviously, you hate those bad losses and things like that, but that's the ebb and flows of the season, and it's going to happen. And it's one of those things where you can't get too high and you can't get too low no matter what happens, because they could win this game against OKC and then go drop an egg against Chicago, because
It's
that's a quick
possible.
turnaround and it's less than 24 hours from when the game tipped off in OKC versus when it's going to tip off in Chicago. You're traveling tonight, you're getting in late. You will sleep in your own bed, but it's going to be one of those things where you
Be
get
late.
up and you have to kind of go through things. So back-to-backs are never easy. Not making an excuse, but it is a little bit different because you don't have extra time to travel. So and Chicago's waiting for you. So this is a big, big, big game. And I think that the Chicago game, to me, Facci, is almost as important as this OKC game was, just for what's at stake.
I think it is just because we've also been down this road so many times. First of all, we already lost to Chicago earlier this year, and
At
I
home.
still remember that feeling. That did not feel good at all. But it's like the constant test that every time the Pacers finally start to get that respect from the fan base, They do lay a stinker. And I think that now it's like, I want to see this team execute. I want to see them get up for that same type of, game against a team that you do expect to beat. I know Chicago is not this team that's like, they're not Detroit or Washington or anything like that. They're still a very capable team. But if you can handle business against Chicago, I'll believe that you can keep this going and beat Brooklyn and those other teams that you're supposed to beat that are on the schedule next. But I want to see the Pacers respond. And I think we already talked about just how rough they've been on back to back. So show us something. Because if the Pacers can go out on a 3-game winning streak right now, having won 4 out of 5, if they can beat Chicago, that would say something about this team as they're, the midway point in March. And there's about roughly at this exact point when we're recording this, there's about 1 month of the season. The last game is April 14th. So you want to be playing your best basketball as the season's coming to an end. You still have time to go, but this would be a very encouraging sign to win this game on the second night of a back-to-back against a team that you should beat.
Yeah, you just got to keep taking one game at a time too, because you're only 1.5 back of New York for the 4th spot.
Exactly. That's
know,
huge right
That's
now.
home court advantage in the playoff series.
Massive.
Even if you are on the same side as Boston on the bracket, I think that it would be very difficult, regardless, even if you win a first round series, to win a second round series. Not saying it's impossible, but it will be very difficult. But if you can get yourself a home court advantage in the first round, like, that's clearly the goal. And I think these guys understand that. And they've got, playoff experience with a guy like Pascal Siakam on the roster now. And that's a huge part of this team. And he's continuing to kind of showcase why he was brought in here, because we saw how bad Orlando killed Indiana before with their limited wings or their bigs, right? You get a guy like Pascal Siakam to kind of muck things up a little bit, and Boncaro shot the ball incredibly poorly. The same thing can be said for Franz Wagner. He did not shoot the ball well, and he was dealing with, Aaron Nesmith and Pascal Siakam guarding him at times. So, yeah, I think the Pacers have just done a really good job of finding a way to kind of put together a roster that makes a little bit more sense long term. And they're just starting to figure each other out now that everybody's kind of healthy and they kind of know their role. And you're just slowly seeing, like, okay, if we buy into what coach is saying, we can get the job done. And I've heard Rick Carlisle say too many times, like, I got to get these guys to buy in, that they got to get off the fast starts. They got to play at a faster pace. But it feels like the last 6 quarters, Facci, we have seen some of the best Pacers basketball of the season. And I think that this isn't like hyperbole, but I feel like this game against OKC was the most complete game we've seen from the team from start to finish.
I think it's a fair statement. I really think it is, because I felt like they started out really good defensively, and every time OKC, was making a run, the Pacers had answers, and I think that's great to see. So, just overall, I mean, just looking at the actual game, this was a game that the Pacers shot the ball really well. I mean, they shot the ball 54% in this game against a good OKC team. They got to the line 19 times. They made their free throws for the most part, 16 of 19. We've seen the Pacers have games where, they've missed too many free throws, missed like 6 or 7, and they lose by 2. And that's tough to see. So they got to the line more than OKC. I felt that we already touched on the assist numbers. Like, the 30's always been that magic number for the Pacers. They get to 34. I think that's great. And then turnover wise, I mean, they protected the rock tonight. 9 turnovers for the Pacers. I think that's as good as you could possibly ask for, winning that battle. And then I just think that overall, yeah, like you mentioned, a complete effort from a team. You saw 10 Pacers, log minutes, and I feel that, everybody pretty much, contributed in some sort of way for the most part. They tried, and I felt that, hey, a 10-point win on the road against OKC, it's the best possible outcome that you could have. You couldn't even imagined an outcome this good. That's how I'll put it.
Yeah, we definitely left OKC thunderstruck by the Pacers right there.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Before we wrap things up, I felt really bad because I think it was about 2 weeks ago, Facci, I came on air and talked about Garrett, who had sent me 4 different sauces with some sponge candy. And I was going to try the sponge candy on air, and I forgot to do it for like 2 or 3 episodes that we did. And then I was like, shoot, Facci's on vacation. I don't want to do it without him. So I've got this sponge. I can't really see it, but I've got this sponge candy here. I'm going to see if I can hold this up. I don't know if it's going to show or not, but this is
I see it.
The milk chocolate sponge candy. And I told Garrett I was going to try it today at the end of the podcast. So I want to be a man of my word. It is a little bit late. It's about 11 o'clock. I shouldn't be eating candy this late, but we're going to try it. I'm a little bit nervous, but here we go, Facci. Go ahead and kind of kill some time while I'm chewing on this candy.
All right. Well, hey, I'll let you know I already brushed my teeth, so no candy for me tonight. But at the same point, while Alex is chewing, this is some solid suspense over here. He's mulling it over. He's making a face, but it looks like a good face. It looks like, what do you got?
Was shocking. It was a very kind of a crispy milk chocolate taste.
Okay.
I really don't know what the inside tastes like. It kind of tastes like a Whopper.
Oh, I love Whoppers.
Mixed with the crunch of like a Rice Krispie treat, but it
Sounds
was
like my
milk
kind of
chocolate
candy.
and not like malt chocolate from a Whopper.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say that's an 8 out of 10. I really liked it.
8 out of 10 solid. Hey, that's at least a B. I was never really an A+ guy in school. I was good with the B's. It got me to where I needed to be. So, it works out. That's nice.
I need your opinion, though, because yesterday I had Jimmy Cook on from 107.5 The Fan, and we did an Easter candy draft. Now, I'm not going to tell you who picked what, because I'm assuming you haven't listened to the episode yet.
Not yet.
So I'm going to go ahead and just read the list of candies, and I want you to tell me what team you think won. So we did 6 each. We did a starting 5 with a 6-man. So here's the first team. We've got the Reese's Peanut Butter Eggs. We've got those. Peeps.
Okay.
We've got the Kit Kats in an egg form. The egg form Sour Patch Kids. Okay, and then we've got the tangerine jelly beans that are like in that little plastic bag that look like a carrot.
Yeah, I understand about.
And then lastly, we've got the Tootsie Roll fruit chews.
Okay.
Okay, so that's team 1. Team 2 has Starburst jelly beans, the Cadbury Eggs franchise, Robin Egg Whoppers, the Lint Bunny, the gold one that's like the milk chocolate thing.
Oh, yeah.
So that's Lint is the Lindt is the company. Then the marshmallow eggs and the chocolate covered marshmallow eggs in the white carton. I don't know if you've ever seen those or not. It's the Zachary's brand, but it looks almost like a white egg carton, and on the inside it's like chocolate covered marshmallow.
I think I know what you're talking about.
And then the last one on this one was Sweet Tart jelly beans.
This is tough.
Yeah.
This is tough. I'm personally not a Peeps guy, so I don't want to let that just kind of deter me. But then I also don't like the orange jelly bean thing?
Tangerine.
Tangerine, yeah. I might lean that second team.
So you're going with Starburst jelly beans, Cadbury. You like Cadbury eggs?
I'm not sure if I've ever had them.
They're like the little milk chocolate eggs with they're wrapped in like aluminum foil. It's like red, blue, and green. They've got that white cream in the middle.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Okay. And then the Robin Egg Whoppers, those are usually in like that yellow
I like Whoppers.
Milk or that milk carton looking thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously the other ones I explained, those are pretty obvious. So that was mine. You picked my list.
Okay. Yep.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'm sure you're trying to pick against me.
No, I lean you just because I think I'm very anti-Pete. I think
That's how I felt. That's how I felt.
I know. Like I just and to be honest, I liked some of the other candies that he did have in there. Like I do like the Kit Kats and the Reese's, but like Pete, can't do it.
We were going Easter candy, so he felt like he had to take a staple. Sense. But I felt like the Kit Kat and the Sour Patch Kids was kind of a cop out.
Yeah, I can see that a little bit. I mean, I do like both. I do like both of those, but
but it'd be like me picking pastel colored M&Ms and saying, they're different than normal M&Ms. No, they're the same thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's a fair point. Yeah,
that's why I was trying to go specifically like Easter candy because I could have said like a Snickers egg because that was on my short list.
And you got called out for not saying it.
I saw that on
Twitter.
Chuck and Jamie,
the Pacers faithful. I saw that, and without having watched the episode, I'm like, man, I don't know what the context is, but candy had to have been involved in some sort of way, so that all makes sense.
I did 2 drafts on the show. You know how I like drafts.
So we love a good draft.
We did the candy draft, and then I did the players that played for OKC and Seattle and the Pacers were eligible for the draft. I thought about sending you something and saying we should do one for the Pacers and the Bulls, but we'll have another Pacers Bulls game coming up in a couple of weeks. We can do it then. But I thought it was really fun just to kind of see like what players played for both. And I know Tyler Watts posted Picasso actually commented on one of the Facebook posts and said that it felt like Pacers trivia almost. trying to figure
Yep.
out what players played for both teams, because I did the same thing on Saturday night with Bryce Woolley when we did our Orlando Magic preview there, and so that was fun. I asked them, do you want the first pick or the second or third? I let them pick, and they both gave me the first pick. So
Interesting. Wow,
You
they must
know?
have really felt like they owed you one. You know,
I don't
I got
know.
no
I'm just so
problem
nice,
snagging
man.
that first pick.
Kill him with kindness. I mean, especially the Magic guy. I was kind of surprised because it's like Oladipo was the first pick. The next pick was Al Harrington.
Really?
That's how
Wow.
big of a drop off it is. There's not
That-
Scott
that is-
Skiles,
that
excuse
is-
me. It was Scott Skiles, but still Scott Skiles over Oladipo, like that's not comparison.
That's a big drop off right there.
But-
I mean, love me some Al Harrington though. You know, I really do. 2-time Pacer. But yeah, I mean, I guess you're
He's
really
not
only
all-star
looking
level.
at one All-Star. Yeah, Oladipo, right?
Yeah, that's kind of how it was. I mean, that was an interesting group right there, Facci. My team was not great. My last pick was Damo Rudez.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
how much of a slim pickings it was. I had like Kyle O'Quinn as my center.
Yeah, and I always loved me some Kyle O'Quinn.
Yeah.
I really did back in the day. And you can start to look at those Pacers teams, you can realize they really weren't that good if I was really loving me some Kyle O'Quinn. But I always felt that he deserved a little bit more minutes in the NBA. Maybe he was just coming off of that Knicks run where he was decent. But you know, that's a throwback right there.
Yeah, my team was Victor Oladipo, Anthony Johnson, Josh McRoberts, Kyle O'Quinn, and Damo Rudez. And his team was, like I said, Al Harrington with Scott Skiles. And then I think he went, I'm having a hard time remembering now because it was so long ago. Gogo Batadze was his center.
Oh, yeah.
I'm trying to remember who he had as his other shooting guard. He might have went CJ Watson. It was a very hodgepodge team.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, you know, this is tough. I was kind of seeing like, okay, they had a decent squad. Oh, Ron Mercer was his other one. So, yeah, so very random. And that just kind of shows you like how many players have not overlapped with Indiana.
Yeah, no, that's true.
19 players, exactly.
A lot of role players. A lot of role players. So I don't know who's going to shoulder the load offensively in some of those matchups, but might be a low scoring affair. We'll say that.